Hello. Dylan Thomas is the last poet we have in the 7th week of our course. Dylan Thomas was born in 1914 and died in 1953. First, let us see the historical and literary context in which Dylan Thomas lived and wrote his poems. We will pay special attention to "Do not go gentle into that good night" with reference to the form called Villanelle, because it is a very interesting form which is well exemplified by Dylan Thomas. We will also read a refusal to mourn the child by fire of a child in London to give a base for the kind of profound theme Dylan Thomas has in his works. And then we will analyze the poem, and lastly we will offer a poet's reading. How would another poet read Dylan Thomas' poem, particularly this "Do not go gentle into that good night"? Let us see the historical and literary context. Second World War happened between 1939 and 1945. During this time we find modernist poets had reached their heights, and then another group of poets was coming up. Yeats, Eliot and Pound, they were also writing, but then we have another group of poets called Auden group or Pylon group of poets, represented by W. H. Auden, C. D. Lewis, Louis MacNeice and Stephen Spender. This term Pylon is used to refer to this group because of a poem by Spender that is called the Pylons. These poets were generally writing about urban life, industrial life, and they had leftist leanings, some socialist cause they had. That is why they are part of this group called Pylon poets. During this time also we notice the persistence of romantic poetry. Just because modernist poetry was popular, it does not mean that everybody was writing modernist poetry. A notable example of romantic poetry we find in Dylan Thomas. We also have another group of poets called movement poets. This group is represented by Philip Larkin, Donald Davy, D.J. Enright and Elizabeth Jennings. This group wrote about anti-romantic sentiments. They were using witty, sardonic comments in their poems. They had an ironical attitude to life. So we have an anthology called New Lines, A Way of Living by Robert Conquest, who was also a poet from this movement group. In addition to all this, modernist poets, Auden group or romantic poets or movement poets, we have to remember that Irish poets, Scottish poets and Welsh poets also contributed to English poetry. We have many Irish poets. One famous example is Seamus Heaney. We have similarly a good number of Scottish poets. A good example is Carol Ann Duffy, and then we have many Welsh poets. One example is our poet Dylan Thomas. That is why in this context, in the context of 20th century British poetry, we have to remember many groups contributed to 20th century British poetry. We have a strange case of 3 Thomases writing at the same time. We have one Edward Thomas, he was the war poet that we referred to. This war poet was also a friend of Robert Frost. Next we have Dylan Thomas, who we are going to see. He did not join the Second World War, he somehow escaped. He used this romantic tendency in his poems, one of the best known Welsh poets. Then we have another Welsh poet in R.S. Thomas. He was a priest and a poet. So in this context it would be good to remember 3 famous Thomases from the same, almost the same period. Now let us come to Dylan Thomas. Dylan Thomas is a distinct Welsh poet in the romantic tradition. He was reputed for his original use of language and imagery. Throughout his life, he was obsessed with words, sounds, rhythms and meanings. He was concerned with the themes of the unity of time, creative destruction and destructive creation, and correspondence of all living things. We can remember the correspondent breeze. There is a correspondence between nature and human beings among all things. Dylan Thomas was a legendary artist of poetry, short stories, radio plays and live and recorded performances. He was one of the most popular poets in his own life, in his own lifetime. He was well recognized for two of his volumes, Deaths and Entrances, published in 1946, and in Country Sleep, published in 1952. Some of his well known poems are Fernhill, A Refusal to Mourn the Death by Fire of a Child in London, and Do Not Go Gentle into That Good Night. We have this poem, A Refusal to Mourn the Death by Fire of a Child in London here. When we read this poem, we will understand the thematic density or the thematic profundity in his poem. Never until the mankind making bird, beast and flower, fathering and all humbling darkness, tells with silence the last light breaking, the still hour is calm of the sea, tumbling in harness. We have highlighted certain words like making, fathering, humbling, flower, hour, harness, darkness, to indicate the kind of awareness of rhythm and sound patterns that Dylan Thomas had. We also have noticed L, S, I in terms of this consonants and assonance. These poetic devices contribute to the immense poetic quality that we have in Dylan Thomas. Then let us continue. And I must enter again the round Zion of the water bead and the synagogue of the year of corn. Shall I let pray the shadow of sound or sow my salt seed in the least valley of sackcloth to mourn? Here again we have indicated the imagery, the metaphor and alliteration in the poem, the least valley of sackcloth, again metaphor, the kind of rhyme scheme that we have, round, sound, bead, seed, corn and mourn we have indicated. Let us proceed further. The majesty and burning of the child's death, I shall not murder the mankind of her going with a grave truth, nor blasphemy down the stations of the breath with any further elegy of innocence and youth. Dylan Thomas was accused of indifference to death of a child in London when he was writing this poem. Actually, he has a higher purpose. What is death? How do we approach death? How do we think about death? How do we actually accept death in our life? That was a philosophical question that he raised in this poem. That is why he says, I shall not murder the mankind of her going with a grave truth, nor blasphemy down the stations of the breath with any further elegy of innocence and youth. And lastly we have this section. Deep with the first dead lies London's daughter, robed in the long friends, the grains beyond age, the dark veins of her mother, secret by the unmourning water of the riding Thames. After the first death there is no other. This is the greatest wisdom that we find in this poem in the form of an epigram. After the first death there is no other. Daughter, water, friends, Thames, mother, other, these are the rhyming words. This daughter who dies because of this fire is unmourned by this riding Thames. The attitude of the poet to the girl, the young child, is not indifference but of profound concern, but he shows his concern with dispassion or detachment. That is why some readers have found this poem to be cold, because of this kind of detached attitude of the poet towards the theme of death. This theme of death is further developed in his next poem, Do Not Go Gentle into That Good Night. Before we move to the next poem, let us see some impressions that we have about this poem. When we read this poem, we understand that it is written in a free verse form in 24 lines. Of course, there are something like stanza patterns of 6 lines each. there is consistent rhyme in terms of ABC, ABC throughout the poem. We have alliteration, assonance, consonants, everything relating to poetic devices we have here. The sound, sense mingle to make meanings in Dylan Thomas's poem. We have very clear original images in some of these lines: the sea tumbling in harness, the round Zion of the water bead, the synagogue of the ear of corn, and lastly the epigram, after the first death there is no other. There is only one death. Let us understand what it is, let us approach it, let us accept it, let us learn that this death is a continuation of the life that we had. Probably before that there was something else, this continuity of life, probably this is the kind of romantic strain, love and death continuing in the river of life or river of time. That is what we find in Dylan Thomas. The next poem is in the form of Villanelle. It is a special form, that is why we have chosen this particular poet and also this poem in our course to understand what a Villanelle form is. This is one of the best villanelles in English language. A villanelle is a poem of 19 lines divided into 5 tercets. That means we have ABA and ABA scheme we have in this poem, and also we have a quatrain at the end, ABAA. It has 2 refrains in a specific pattern. Line 1 is repeated in 6, 12 and 18. Line 3 is repeated in line number 9, 15 and 19. Thematically, the poem is obsessed with a serious problem or an issue. It was popular in 16th century French literature. Later on it was revived in 19th century and imported into England by Edmund Gosse, Andrew Dobson, Oscar Wilde and others at the end of 19th century. This particular form is widely used in 20th century literature. Originally it was a flexible and spontaneous form, but now it has a fixed form like 19 lines, 5 tercets, a quatrain and all that. We have many examples. It will be surprising for us to know that many poets, 20th century poets, have used this form. Edward Arlington Robinson has this poem, The House on the Hill. James Joyce has his poem, Villanelle of the Temptress. Our well-known critic for ambiguity, William Emerson, has a poem called Missing Dates. The Auden group poet Auden we mentioned, he has a poem called If I Could Tell You. American poets Theodore Roethke, Elizabeth Bishop, they have their own poems like The Waking, One Knot. Then we have Dylan Thomas, Do Not Go Gentle Into That Good Night. Further we have Sylvia Plath with one poem, Mad Girl's Love Song. Seamus Heaney also has a poem called Villanelle for an Anniversary. Annie Finch is another poet who has a poem, Beach of Edges. And lastly we have Julie Kane with a poem, Kissing the Bartender. Many other poets have written villanelles in 20th century and perhaps they are writing in 21st century as well. Let us have some background information about this poem, Do Not Go Gentle Into That Good Night. This poem was composed in 1947 and published in 1951. Later on it was collected in this volume in Country Sleep and Other Poems in 1952. Dylan Thomas specifically wrote this poem for his father, who was dying of cancer in 1952. Seamus Heaney, the Irish poet, calls his poem a threshold poem about death. This threshold between life and death, the interaction between life and death. This is considered to be one of the best known villanelles in English language. It became an influential poem and has affected and reflected the concerns of both common and elite people. Let us read this poem now. Do not go gentle into that good night. Old age should burn and rave at closing of day. Rage, rage against the dying light. Though wise men at their end know dark is right, because their words had folk no lightning, they do not go gentle into that good night. Good men, the last wave by crying how bright their frail deeds might have danced in a green bay, Rage, rage against the dying of the light. Wild men who caught and sang the sun in flight and learned too late they grieved it on its way. Do not go gentle into that good night. Grey men near death who see with blinding sight, blind eyes could blaze like meteors and be gay. Rage, rage against the dying of the light. And you, my father, there on the sad height, curse, bless me now with your fierce tears, I pray. Do not go gentle into that good night. Rage, rage against the dying of the light. This is a poem of 19 lines, as we said, 5 tercets and 1 quatrain, 19 lines. There is a thematic contrast between old age and youth, night and day, dark and light, death and life, curse and bless, father and son, and the whole thematic contrast centers around the theme of separation from and farewell to a father by a son. Many poetic devices are found in this poem. We have the example of alliteration in line 1, go good, assonance in old age and rave at close of day. Imagery we have in forked no lightning, their frail deed might have danced in a green bay. Their frail deed might have danced in a green bay. That kind of image comes to us in front of us. Then we have oxymoron in blinding sight, sight which blinds us, therefore we cannot see. Alliteration in caught and sang, the sun and flight. Simile and paradox together we have in this line, blind eyes could blaze like meteors and be gay. Refrain we mentioned already, 1, 6, 12 and 18 they are repeated. That is a line, do not go gentle into that good night. And then we have another set, 3, 8, 15 and 19, the same line, rage, rage against the dying of the light. When we come to rhyme and rhythm and meter, we can see a number of words, rhyming words. ABA is a scheme that is found in the 5 tercets, and in the last one we have ABAA. Rhyming words are night, day, light, right day, night, bright bay, light, flight way, night, sight, gay, light, height, pray, night, light. Then we have rhythm, which is found in the iambic pentameter with variation of tetrameter with 5 feet and then 4 feet. That is the kind of variation we have. Just one example for the rhythm and also caesura and end stop lines we have in these 4 lines. And you, my father, there on the sad height, curse, bless me now with your fierce tears, I pray. Do not go gentle into that good night. Rage, rage against the dying of the light. We have underlined those places where we have the stress, sad height. These are some of the examples where we have spandi. To give an overall impression of this poem, we can say the poem captures the anguish of a son about his father dying of throat cancer but unable to share the news with his own father. It's a personal poem of despair and frustration and protest against the same common enemy for all of us, that is death. Wise men have not explained the mystery of death. How can they? Good men's good deeds have not protected them against death. How is it possible? Wild men who have enjoyed life but have not learnt about death. Is it possible for us to learn about death in this life? That's a kind of question that the poet has in front of us. Grave men have understood life and remained happy. Those who understand the arrival of death, those who accept death, they can alone be happy. The poet pleads with his father not to say the final departing words good night as an image of departure and death. The meditatively musical poem reaches the heart of the readers because we are also in the same position when we have to say good night to our departing friends, family members. We have a poet's reading. Seamus Heaney is the poet who has discussed this poem in one of his essays. Heaney offers a poetic reading of Thomas's poem. Thomas's craft and his suffering are very close. A threshold poem about death, it integrates imagery, diction and themes well. It portrays a remoteness of all fathers as the poet protests against separation from his own father. The phrase good night is a mixture of salutation and also farewell, balancing grief and necessity. He reads the son and the father at two levels, one between Dylan the son and his father, and the next between the child poet and the old poet Dylan himself. It provides a vivid figure of the union of opposites of the father in the son in the father, life in death and death in life. That is why it is considered to be one of the best Villanelle poems in English language. To give you a summary of our discussion on Dylan Thomas, we can say we have looked into the historical and literary context against the background of this Second World War, modernist poetry, movement poetry and all that. Dylan Thomas did not belong to any group and stood alone as a distinct voice, as a distinct poet with his serious poems on life and death. The poem that we looked at very closely is Do Not Go Gentle Into That Good Night, which is a good example of Villanelle form, which has been used by many other poets in 20th century. We also referred to another poem, a Refusal to Mourn the Death by Fire of a Child in London, to actually indicate the kind of obsession that Dylan Thomas had with this profound theme of death. It is a very interesting poem by itself, though some critics have found some kind of indifference from Dylan Thomas towards a child's death. I would consider this poem to be a dispassionate account of death of a child by Dylan Thomas. We have some references. Those of you interested may see some of these references and learn more about Dylan Thomas and his poems. Thank you.